technical SEO stuff. I hope there is some real good value that you guys walk away from this session. So let me give you a quick introduction about myself. So my name is Sendil Kumar, and I started marketing from 2006. And at that time, I was in my college, and they used to call it as Googly. We don't name it as Google. We used to call it as Googly, and we are just able to use it for searching for game cheat codes and stuff like that. That's how it all started. And so my dad is my guru, number one. So today is not a Father's Day. So the thing is, my dad has taught me marketing, customer service. I've been his sidekick since my age of 14. He had a printing business. So he used to tag me along him whenever he goes to some client places during the weekends. So I used to really enjoy that. And I learned a lot of stuff from him. When it comes to SEO, my number one guru is Rand Fishkin. Ever since 2010, they had this Mars Whiteboard Fridays. I used to listen to it every single week, and I learned a lot of stuff from them. Same to Neil Patel as well. When it comes to the complete stack of marketing, Neil's blogs have been really critical to learn stuff. And based on all these things, I did took a sabbatical from 2014, where I started creating my own plugin because I was more interested in trying to learn coding and stuff. So I created my own plugin called WP Enhance, which is based on Google's NLP. So what it does is it converts a YouTube video into blog posts on autopilot, along with the images and all the things. It is basically scrapping the YouTube API based on whatever keywords you have, and it just adds the post on it. I basically did it just for a fun sake, and also because at that time I realized that creating content was a costly affair. So I just thought, what else can we do about it? And then as a fun project, I did it, and a lot of people took notice, and I sold it for nearly, I think, 3,000 sites at that time of powering it. Later, Google, there was some issue on the API, so we have to, put aside this plugin and move on. So that's my history. So I have been over the last few years, or last 14 years, I've been completely into SEO. I worked with 100 plus websites, big websites, like close to 1 million, 2 million pages, trying to optimize it through various technical automations and stuff. And so be it big or small, I've worked on it. So I'm here to share with you guys my learnings when it comes to technical SEO. Up until recently, I've been working with two companies. One is Neil Patel Digital India. I've been helping them with the marketing and the operations. And I'm also working with Stan Ventures, which is focused on the US on the SEO front. So moving on, before we jump into the whole conversation or a whole session, let me take a step back and understand about your understanding about SEO, so that accordingly I can plan the explanations and I can skip few slides if it's like too basic for you guys. So please rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. What is your SEO knowledge level? Let's take 30 seconds for this. I'll just quickly check the chat. Great. So on an average, it comes to 6 to 7. Great. Cool. I think, yeah, I can sense that we can safely say that there is a midpoint of 5 to 6 on an average. So I think this session, then I think the following slides should be helpful for you guys. Hopefully I don't bore, because I hate boring people with basic stuff. If you're already aware of it, we don't have much time. So let's jump into the session. So what are the goals for the next 1 hour? First and foremost, I'm going to explain you about the importance of technical SEO, and then what do we see as an SEO when there are like numerous clients we work with. In fact, even though the number of clients we actually get a time to work with will be like probably less than 10 to 20 clients on a month, but still, while doing the proposals, we usually look at hundreds of sites every month. So there are like common issues that we notice. This is like repeatedly we can see it again and again. And I've just picked up those common tech SEO issues so that you guys can also be aware of it and ensure that that is been fixed. And then few tips and tricks along the way, and few advanced technical SEO things to boost your rankings. Now, just getting to the basics, just a quick refresh in your memory about how the algorithms have evolved is basically the creating a great content and optimizing it, presenting the Google bot. You mean you can see literally that when it comes to SEO, people talk a lot about the multiple tenets. But when it comes to the core, it's all about creating a great content and then presenting it to Google in a well optimized way. And then obviously it's going to help it with the ranking. Now, to boost the ranking, that's how the links and then the page engagement and then the content refreshes, everything come into the picture. Now, moving into the nuts and bolts of this, now creating great content, building links, engaging is not part of the agenda today. The agenda is how do we optimize this content better and how do we present to the Google bot so that more pages are being crawled and more content is being absorbed by Google, and thereby we get more chance of ranking well for some of the competing keywords. So a quick walk through the memory lane when it comes to the Google algorithm updates. Now, if you look at the last 10 years of the way Google algorithms have evolved, initially Google had a lot of issues when it comes to the spammy backlinks, and then a lot of people copying content from each site and trying to create the website on their own. And so they they released a lot of some really powerful algorithms during 2011 to 16, and they literally knocked out the content plagiarism and the spammy backlinks. I wouldn't say 100% spammy backlinks is still people are there are a lot of loopholes, but at least they've tried in a big way, and in fact that knocked off all the spammy agencies at least. So the ones that you find now, they are well aware of all the content duplications, the plagiarism issues, the link, the spammy backlinks. So now if you notice, the SEO agencies have evolved, and so are the SEOs as well, who are working directly in the client places. Now, post 2011-12, now when the RankBrain algorithm was released, when the processing of search queries are more focused on the intent of an user and trying to see how Google can use an AI algorithm to rank a page. That is something which started, and then it got upgraded in 2009 using a BERT algorithm, where the natural language processing came into the picture, where between the words, Google tried to find the synonyms and trying to find the relationship between each query, and then trying to start ranking for the websites. So this way, Google has evolved its algorithms in a significant way. And thereby, one thing that is clear is they have almost cracked how to handle a low quality content stuffing and spammy link building tactics and all the things they have cracked. But now they are in a mission to get the technical stuff in a proper way. That is the page experience. The user experience is what they are focusing on. And that is something which they're going to launch probably in the next 6 months to 8 months, which Google has already announced it. And already, if you're using Search Console, you can see the core web vitals being shown. So we can see that it's clear that Google has made now that the user experience is very important, because now they are fully focused on mobile first. And when it comes to mobile, it's very critical that you have limited real estate to play with. And if the page experience is not proper compared to what the desktop has, where in the desktop you have the live chat pop-ups, the interstitials, the hello bars, and all the other exit intent pop-ups, still you can manage with it. But when it comes to mobile, when all these things are coming up, it creates a poor user experience. And that is where Google is focusing more on. And this is the reason why SEOs with a technical background, or at least if the SEOs don't have a technical background, it is high time that they get equipped on the technical front, because the game of depending on the content and trying to build backlinks is almost over, because everything is like well sorted. Now the game of SEO, and which site loads faster and how quickly or how better you can ensure that the Google bot indexes your site. So all these things come into the picture. So here is one example which most of you would have seen in the, I think this is picked up from the web dev, where this is one example where, if you try to place an order and then when you try to hit go back, it just places the order. I'll just play this video once again. Um, so if you're trying to place an order and then when you're trying to click go back, but because of that, the pop-up that comes in, or the top bar, the text that comes in, so accidentally people click on the order complete. Now this is something which these days are becoming a black hat tactic, just like in the old days where in the link building and in the content stuffing, everything's happening now. From a technical standpoint, some of the black hat tactics are becoming more and more prevalent, and so that's probably one of the reasons why Google is also focusing more on the user experience and trying to create more
Sir, what
algorithms.
are you explaining?
Uh, Sorry, yes.
Sindel, I think you can go ahead. I
Okay,
think
right.
somebody would have probably
No,
Okay.
no, no. I'm asking which type of meeting you are doing.
Okay, so this is a WordPress Chennai meetup, and we are actually doing a session. So can you
Uh,
stop sharing your screen so that Sindel can continue?
One question also. Do you know Hindi?
Sorry.
Yeah. Do you know Hindi?
No, I don't know Hindi. Sorry.
Oh, so this is difficult for me, na? Okay,
Okay, Sindel,
still continue.
Sindel, I think you can go ahead.
Okay, sure. Cool. So yes, moving on. Now, why technical SEO is critical is, I think, since most of you, the rating here is in a scale of 5, 1 to 10. You guys have rated as 5. So I think this is something which you guys would have been already aware of, like how Googlebot works. It crawls, it indexes, and then it ranks a page. Now, the technical SEO has complete control on this. So you can create a lot.
Okay. Bye, sir.
Sorry.
Bye, bye. Have a good.
Sindel, I think you can go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So
Sorry
you guys
about
can
it.
still, yeah, no problem. So you guys can still see my screen?
Yeah,
Is it
I'm able to see your screen
very
actually.
good? Okay. So in a nutshell, if Google cannot access, crawl, or parse your website, nothing else really matters, because if you can put up the best content in the world, you can build the best link. But if Google is not able to crawl your page properly or access your page, then it doesn't really matter. So that's why technical SEO is really critical, and that's why time and again, we've been advising the SEOs to start looking at it from a technical standpoint as well, because the content creators, they have already picked up how SEO works. You don't have to again educate them about how Google works, because most of the content creators, they would have gone through an SEO course. It's quite easy for them to pick up. But the people who are in the SEO field, who might have started this, who might have gone into this career because they didn't find another job, that's how most of the SEOs, when I interview them, one thing that I see, a common thing is that after the college, they wouldn't have got a job, or they might have had an arrear, and then as a temporary basis, they would have joined a SEO company to build links for the directory submissions and all the other manual work. And that's how they would have started into the SEO. It's not about being passionate about ranking a website on Google and all the things. It's all about finding a job. So the SEO is one field where you can easily enter into it, and then people usually get into the paid campaigns, and then they slowly migrate towards the other facets of marketing. But when it comes to the core SEOs, people who are passionate, people like you who are spending time on a Saturday evening to know about technical SEO, one thing which is critical is this time that you're investing to know about technical SEO is the right thing that you're doing, because Google also is going towards it. Like I showed you in the slides before, that the page experience algorithm is going to be around the corner. They just delayed it because of the COVID situation. Otherwise, by this year end, they could have released this. So now you know, and now you realize that understanding the technical nuances of SEO is critical. Now, the next thing is, let's get into the common tech issues that we find, that we usually see. So the number one tech issue, or the SEO issue, that I notice when client websites come into us for checking it out, is that the production deployment, they would still be carrying the no index pages. Now, there are a lot of ways where you can prevent Google from crawling a site. So what the developers, they usually think is that if you put a note in the robots file, then it will itself take care of it. You don't have to worry about the rest of the pages. Now that is completely wrong, because a robots file can only tell a search engine not to crawl a page. But still, if a search engine can find the page, it can go there and it can directly index. So just because you have a robots file saying that you've blocked the page, you've blocked the crawling, doesn't mean Google will not stop indexing your site. And this no index, a lot of people think why this guy is explaining this basic stuff of a no index. The thing is, no index is a double-edged sword. You have to use it really well. If you are not paying attention on this tag, then the entire effort that you put in for a SEO campaign will go for a toss. So if you notice here, this is like one of our clients where they had like, I mean, this is just an example slide, but there are a lot of clients whom we see that their development team would have moved it from a staging environment to a production with all the no index tags on it along with it. Now, what it happens is the moment you're introducing a site to Google for the first time, if the bot comes to your site and it sees that there are like about 100 pages and almost all the pages are no index, then they might probably think that it's probably an app or something else that you guys are trying to do. So they might not, again, the way that Google bot is going to treat your site is going to go less and less. So it's all about the moment you're showing the site first, loading it to Googlebot, ensure that all the pages are properly optimized, and also add the index tags. This is something which is the number one thing an SEO should check, especially when a migration is in progress. And the second thing is that this is one example of our client side where if you notice the staging environment, they didn't add any tag. And unfortunately, Google just indexed all the pages on that because it's in a subdomain, and somehow from the homepage or from the previous builds, they have linked to the staging site because they forgot to change the menu. I think some privacy policy or some menu was, some page was still linked out from a staging on the production environment. Now, through that, the bot has actually came into the staging site and it started crawling all the staging pages, pages in the staging server. So because of that, all the new content, all the fresh content that the client has written, again, it's gone for a toss. Now, what they have to do is they have to again wait for it to de-index that and then clean out and redirect it. It's like a really lot of things that you have to go through the moment you do these other things. So just a simple thing of checking the no index would have saved a lot of time for that client, and still the client is struggling, even though after all the things has been done and still the new pages are getting indexed, still the crawl budget has taken a hit because the initial throttle that has been given was lost, and it was a really big website. This one that you're seeing here, it's like just a part of it, but actually the site has a lot of pages on it, and somehow they were not able to retaliate it. So the number one thing when you are migrating or when you are having a staging environment, ensure that it's not about robots file also. Ensure that each file, each page on your site has a no index tag on it. And the moment you are migrating it to a staging, ensure that you're removing away all those no index tags because it's a very critical thing. And so for that, the SEOs can do a full audit. Screaming Frog is probably I would say that's the best tool available right now for the SEOs. So you guys can scrap the site, crawl the site, the staging thing, and then once you're keeping track of all the index, no index pages, then when it's migrated, you can convert it everything into a index follow, and then make the site live. So this is quite an important thing for an SEO standpoint. Now, the second common technical issue that I notice is that people don't care about looking at log file analysis, log files. All they do is they depend heavily on Google Analytics, and then they think, there is like, this is the traffic that I'm getting. But in reality, the problem is that the reporting on Google Analytics, I think this is just a sample. This is one of my test site that I usually practice SEO on the sidelines. Now, in this site, if you notice from July 8 to August 7, Analytics reports me as 1 lakh users, 107,000 users. And then the Cloudflare, which is my CDN that I use, now that reports me like a 200K traffic. Now, I know when it comes to the taking these kind of logs from the server, there will be a lot of attacks, there will be a lot of crawlers that will be beefing up these things. But when you notice the way Google Analytics shows the data, when you're having a really big website, they only show you a sampled data. They don't show you an accurate data. So what happens is most of us will be using a free version of Google Analytics. And if you're having a Google Analytics, if your website is having more than 500K sessions, and if you're applying a segment as filtering down to organic traffic, then obviously what happens is Google will be only showing based on the sampled data. So here is one example. So in this case, this website has about 100K, 178K page views. And there will be a green tick mark next to the channels. If you click on that one, it will show you what is the type. So there will be like a greater precision or greater performance. Two options will be there. If you're selecting greater precision, means the number of sessions that it calculates. If you notice here, this data is coming from only 65.7% of sessions. So this is not like 100% reliable data that is there on the Google Analytics. So the best thing that you can do for this is to look into the server logs. There are a lot of really good tactics to build the server logs and show in a useful way. So I'll be explaining you in a bit like how it can be done. But for now, you have to ensure that it's not just Google Analytics data. Also, start utilizing your server logs. Look at how the bots are crawling your site, from which countries the visitors are coming, because in analytics, it might show a difference. For example, for one of my test sites, it gets more traffic from US, but the server says that the traffic, the second largest traffic is from Canada as per analytics, but as per the server logs, it's actually coming from Singapore. So there are like a lot of changes in the way, or a lot of data mismatch that happens. So the best thing forward for you is to have a bird's eye view on both the analytics data, search console data, and also your server logs, so that you can find that where really the people are coming from, or what type of crawlers are crawling your website, or where your server resources are wasted or utilized better. And so to summarize so far, what we discussed is the two major issues. One is the not focusing much on the no index, lethargic attitude, and just like that pushing things back and forth. That is something shouldn't be there for any SEO's mind when it comes to site migration. The second thing is the proper utilization of the log files, analyzing the log files and making it as your one of the important tasks to do as an SEO. The third thing that I noticed when it comes to the sites is that the badly configured robots files. Now, one thing that, like I mentioned, when you're moving from a staging to production, sometimes you might be forgetting that, to allow the Googlebot to crawl the site. So one thing that we notice, or the best practices that I would suggest, is to add a sitemap file in the robots file as well, because that is the first file that the bot accesses before even trying to crawl your entire site. First, it checks your robots file. And here, if you are giving a link to, this is something which is picked up from Hotjar. So if you notice, the first thing on the robots file itself, they are giving a link to their sitemap file, clearly telling the bot that you just go ahead and start crawling. That's it. And then followed by, they do have a bunch of pages like this. I think most of these pages are temporary pages, which they have disallowed it. But it's always a good practice to add a sitemap file on the robots file, which is a necessity these days. Now, this hygiene needs to be followed. And the next issue that I usually see is the wasting of the Google crawl budget. Now, Google needs to crawl literally 30 trillion pages in the web. Now, imagine the amount of money or the amount of service that's required to crawl these pages. So Google is not going to spend like a lot of time crawling your website, and they do allocate only certain budget to crawl your site. So when optimizing the websites for crawlability, your main goal should be to make sure that the search engines are spending their time on your most important pages, so that they are regularly crawled and any new content can be found. So each time a Googlebot visits your website, it has a limited window, so in which to crawl and discover as many pages as possible. So when the limit is hit, it will stop and it will go to the other side. So ensure that you're matching your crawl budget with the business priorities. So if you're having a site with let's take for example, you're having an e-commerce store, and your main product that you're selling is furniture. You're selling probably the work from home tables. That's your main product. But what happens usually in e-commerce store is they also try to cross sell. Probably if this furniture means, you'll also try to cross sell a sofa, or maybe some other furnitures as well. But when your core product is the home work from home office setup or those kind of things, it needs to be really critical that these pages are given more prominence, and you're ensuring that Googlebot crawls these pages in a regular way, rather than trying to waste time with hundreds of blogs or all the other things that you add on your website. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you should not be deprioritizing the other pages. But the thing is, for your business, the number one priority that you have a website is to get money, or is to get sales from the web. If the sales or lead generation doesn't happen, then it's just sitting there. So first, ensure that these pages are given more prominence in the sitemap, and then you give more prominence to the second priority or third priority to the other things, like the images or the videos, or probably something else, some other things on your site. So ensure, so to boost the scroll budget, I do have few tips that will be coming up. So one thing that we have to really check, and this is where especially the looking in your server logs will be really helpful. If you're having about 100, if you're having about 100K pages, and if the Google bot is only crawling about 50 pages or 100 pages a day, so that is like it takes forever to crawl all the pages. So if you see that there are like you have 10x of pages compared to the average pages crawled per day as per the Google bot, then you have a big task on hand. You have to really get into the bottom of things and figure out where or why the indexing or why the crawling is very slow. So there are various factors that affects the crawl budget, like for example, the page rank, the way the XML sitemap has been set up, and the way the page has been included in the sitemap, the position within the site's architecture. So if you are going to bury the site, bury the page in third folder or the fourth folder, then it will take for a while for Googlebot to crawl those kind of pages. However, if that page is directly getting a link from, or if it's directly accessible from home page or from the next level pages, so these kind of pages will be quickly indexed and quickly crawled and indexed on the on the Google servers. So ensure that the position of the page is well within the site's architecture, and then how frequently the page changes, and most importantly, the fifth point, genuine content. Now, I myself have tested a lot of times where creating dynamically generating a page, hundreds of thousands of pages. There are a lot of databases available that you can easily create a website. You just create a script, it just matches up with 10 to 20 variables, and then we can easily create a formula that can create content from 10 to 20. For example, let's say you have a 100K database of contacts, somehow from the web you've got it. Now it's quite easy to create a script that can take up each column and then add it into a variable and create a content. Like that, you can easily create 100K pages within a fraction. But the thing is, and then when you create that whole website, and then when you're launching it to Google, you might notice that not all the pages are getting crawled. So maybe initially first 2 days the crawl rate will be on the higher side, but then when Google finds that you're just trying to game the system with some dynamically generated content or some copied content from somewhere, so these kind of things, the algorithms have evolved, so they can easily figure that out. And you can notice that not all your pages are indexed, only it just goes down and down. And the more genuine your content is, the crawl budget will also be increased. So these are the five major things which I've noticed in the way how to increase a crawl budget. Now, this is the example which I was talking about. So you can always check the servers. You can check the log files and see what is the number of pages. For example, in this site for the last month, the Google bot has crawled about 280K pages, and obviously the website itself has about close to somewhere around that same. So in fact, we have maintained, or maybe I've tested the website in such a way that all the pages got crawled in an efficient way. And the crawl budget also from the search console will be very helpful, because that is the source of truth anyways, because this is directly reported from Google. So you can keep track of this one. You can look at what is the average that you're getting every day in terms of the number of pages. Now this page is what is this number of pages, which is equivalent to the number of pages on your site. So you can't expect, if you're having 100,000 page site, not all the pages will be crawled every day, because the moment bot comes today and then tomorrow when it again checks the page, if it sees that the content hasn't changed at all, then probably the next time it will deprioritize it and see, maybe it will wait for 2 days or maybe a week or maybe a few days, so that if they don't waste the budget. Because like I already mentioned, there Google's if I'm in the marketing team of Googlebot, if I'm in the production team of the Googlebot, I will definitely be looking at how to save the crawl budget, because most of the sites, they don't change every day. Probably some of the news sites, obviously every day they keep adding the news, but if you notice how many times compared to March month, how many times have we searched about corona in the last few days, right? So during the initial thing, a lot of people will be searching for it, and then it just gets down and down because the topic is no longer an interest. people will be moving on to something else. So the news site, if it is carrying about 1 million pages, example, if I'm taking a site like New York Times, and they would have had like millions of stories for the last 10 years. So it doesn't mean the bot has to crawl a story which is as long as 5 years back, or a story even a week back. People don't care about it. The news which happened a week back. What is the right now the news happening? That's what they care about. So if the bot is going to spend the whole time crawling all those things, it's a complete waste of resources for Google. So the same concept, if you're applying to your own website as well, ensure that whatever page that you're constantly updating, ensure that they are given always a priority, and that is being placed in the top of the hierarchy of your page. And all other page which you think it's going to be like a really solid content, but it's not going to change for a while, then those kind of things you can always have it like in the second folder, or probably not don't go beyond the second folder. So this is how we will check the bot's activity as an SEO, and then make a decision how the crawl budget is, and then prioritize the pages, and then plan the way the pages are set up as well. Now, creating the server log. Now, there is a link which I'll be sharing you guys shortly after this presentation. Now, there is a detailed step-by-step guide done by Search Engine Journal for creating this server log dashboard. Now, this is something, the previous ones which I showed you, it is from Cloudflare, which is just a CDN. But if you are taking a server log, there will be like only data. So that data needs to be stored first on an Elasticsearch, and then you can use a tool like Filebeat. It's a log analyzer that processes your log before sending them to the Elasticsearch. And Elasticsearch is the database where all your logs will be stored. And then you can use a service like Kibana, where you can create a dashboard. So end to end, it's available in in this link. So I'll be sharing you guys this link. You guys can check this out. It has a very, very decent guide. It's just launched about 4-5 days back. So you guys can check this out. Now, while creating a dashboard, these are the things which you should be really paying attention when it comes to checking the crawl budget. Looking at the bot crawl volume, looking at the crawl priority, and I think the crawl priority is something which is very critical. Like I mentioned before, or your business critical pages are on those priorities or not. So that is something which you have to look out. And then the response codes, obviously, and the last crawl date, which is again very critical, and the crawl budget wastage. So this is something which, as a technical SEO, you have to be consistently checking, so that you expose the best pages to the bot and ensure that the more and more the bot is going to spend time on your page, it will be better, because I'm sure you will be trying to put the best content out there. That content deserves to be crawled well and deserves to be ranked well. And that will happen if the bot has more time spending on that page, and also obviously the other factors like the backlinks, the engagement, and all the other things. So improving the crawl budget. Now, one thing that you would have known all these things before, I'm just brushing up your memory, that when it comes to the e-commerce sites, when there are a lot of variations that you guys have, the product variations that you're adding, ensure that some of these parameters, these are like, it's going to be, it's good for the users that you're giving all the colors and all the other, product attributes. But for the bot, these things are not quite essential. So what you can do is you can rather use it on the URL parameters. This is something which is right now in the new version, these URL parameters are not there. You should be able to access it under legacy tools in the search console. So you can add the parameters there, so that maybe the category ID, maybe the sort, or maybe something else that you guys are using for your own website to categorize categorize the page attributes. So these things, what we'll do is it will prevent Google from unwantedly crawling these kind of URLs, because if it's come to a product page, the important thing for us is the product page. It's the important page. Now, if you're having another URL having a parameter as color, red, size, XL, and all these things, now the bot is again going to crawl and then spend time and waste it on the same product again and again on the multiple pages. Now that is something, and also it's going to create a duplicate content issue. The duplicate content issue, and then unwantedly wasting the budgets. So ensure that these common things on the website, these are handled through the URL parameters itself. on Search Console. And then the next thing is adding a canonical tag. Now, in case if you are not clear about adding these things or not, so for example, if you notice here, Google itself gives a warning that only use this feature if you are sure how the parameters work. Incorrectly excluding could result in many pages disappearing from a search. So sometimes people, even if you are really, an experienced guy, still these kind of warnings on a search console will always doesn't give you a confidence to add things. So if you are not confident on that angle, then probably what you can do is you can bring in the rel canonical attribute into the picture, and then you can add these canonicals. The next important tag to noindex is this one, the canonical. The way canonical tags work, Googlebot gives it like a very good priority. So ensure that these canonical tags are added on these category pages, the product attribute pages as well, so that always Googlebot is only going to consider the main page, the main product page into consideration. So this is the tip number 6. And then obviously, last but not the least, using the robots file to completely disallow all the parameters on the site. Use it as a last resort, because if you are using the canonical itself is more than sufficient. Because like I mentioned, even recently there has been few talks around this, that even if you are doing something on robots file, still Googlebot is not 100% following that rules. They are still trying to crawl the pages on the site. So the best thing forward would be trying it with the URL parameters on Search Console. That will be my number one thing if I'm going to prevent Googlebot from wasting time on the product category, product attribute pages. Or the next thing would be I'll be trying with the canonical tag, and then the last resort will be the robots. By doing all these things, what you're trying to do as an SEO, like I mentioned before, you're trying to guide the bot, Googlebot, that these pages, these are less priority to me. These are my main priority pages. You spend more time on that, and that is exactly what Google is expecting from the SEOs. Now, Google is not expecting the SEOs to sit and build the links, or to sit and build the content, which obviously any guy good in the content creation, they're going to do it. As an SEO, what Google wants or expects from them is to ensure that the site is technically optimized so that they save their time in unwantedly, rather than unwantedly wasting their time on some of the pages. They can focus on the main pages on your site that really makes sense. So, guys, I'll take a quick break now and ask you. So, am I going a bit fast? I feel that I'm going in a very, very fast note. You guys have anything specific that you want me, or you want me to slow down? I do see there are few chats coming along. So
Sandil, I think at least for me, the speed in which you're going is good.
Okay.
So there are a couple of questions that people have asked in chat. So
Yes.
you could either decide to do them now or finish your session and then do it. So it's up to you.
Absolutely. Well, I would prefer to clear it now, because the question has been asked already. I just want to give the answer. Now, the one question from Mr. Rajesh is that I think the first question is Mr. Rajesh. So instead of robots.txt file, can we use any SEO plugin for WordPress like Yoast SEO? Absolutely. So again, the Yoast SEO, it's not like that they have a separate version of robots file. All Yoast SEO does is it helps the SEOs who don't have technical knowledge to ensure that to add these robots file through the tool itself, through the plugin itself. So you can absolutely use Yoast SEO. It's the best plugin for SEOs. So you can definitely use it. You can also try Bruce Clay's plugin. That's also really good. They have, in fact, they have more features. So you guys can check that out as well. And then, are you sharing the slides after the session? Yes, I'm going to do that. And then Mr. Jaya Hassan has asked, using an SEO plugin like Yoast all-in-one SEO in WordPress can reduce the chance in ranking. Okay, so guys, you have to first realize that what Yoast plugin is doing is it's just like how you are doing it in WordPress, the CMS. Instead of going to the code and adding the pages, you are using a CMS to add a page. It just eases the time. Exactly what Yoast also does. Instead of adding a title description, getting into the code, trying to change it, the plugin is helping you to do that. So you can absolutely use plugin. It will definitely not reduce your chances in ranking. And next, Right. And then adding, okay, next is from Manigandan is about adding disallow condition in robots, helps and third party crawl like streaming crawl. Okay. So if you're going to add a star, for example, if you're going to block all the robot crawling, then obviously it will also prevent Screaming Frog from crawling. So there are certain hacks within Screaming Frog itself where you can bypass that and you can still crawl the page. If you introduce a subdomain or a subpage into the Screaming Frog, then it can already start crawling. The only thing is from the home page, if it checks the robots file, if it sees that it can't crawl, then obviously it will not be able to crawl to the next pages. So if you're having an issue over there, you can directly introduce a page which is not there in the robots file, and then from there the bot can start crawling it up. Okay. So, Sugandh, can you share some tips on how to rank a social media profile? Okay, guys, so this session is mostly from a website perspective. With regards to the social profiles, I think that should be a separate session altogether. Cool. So I think I hope I've covered most of the questions. Let's move on to the next thing. Now, this is the fifth common issue that I find when the sites come in. It's like a poorly optimized sitemap files. Now, the poorly structured sitemap file, what I'm trying to say here is don't just leave this sitemap creation only to the Yoast plugin. You know, also you manually check what is the sitemap being created, or all your important pages being mentioned there. Do a random check now and then, because sometimes what happens is if you accidentally exclude that while usually what people do is they give the access to their writers. They'll directly add content. Some writers will be curious about the list of things that is being shown, the options, they'll be fiddling with it. Now, these kind of things, if you might miss to notice, then that page couldn't be picked up by the Yoast while creating a sitemap. So ensure that you're manually checking that sitemap at least once a month in a random way, so that you know your pages are there. And also on the search console, already Google will give you all these hints. If you feel that a particular URL is not on Google, you can always check it out, and they also give you the reason why the page is not there on the this thing. If you see that it's not there on the sitemap, then obviously you can go try to include that page on the sitemap and then try to recrawl or resubmit the page for crawling. Now, this is such a simple thing, I understand, but again, people make mistakes here, and because of that, some of their important pages will not be able to crawl. Now, I would still take this. I wouldn't say that you need to 100% have a sitemap, because Google has evolved a lot. Like I mentioned, robots.txt itself, they are just ignoring it these days. So even if you're not having a sitemap, but if you're having a well-structured website, that is more than sufficient. This sitemap is a luxury. Additionally, you have it, and then it will be giving you best chances for Googlebot to crawl your pages, and also you have a bit of control on the type of pages being crawled. Now, obviously, it's like a long list here. I will be anyway sharing you guys this presentation. You can just check this out. So these are the sitemaps which should be there for sure. If your website is a video heavy, for example, you are a BuzzFeed and you have a lot of videos on your website, definitely a video XML sitemap is critical. An image XML sitemap if you are an image site, having a mobile XML sitemaps. And if you're a news site, obviously Google News sitemap, you will be using it for sure for rapid indexation of it. And obviously this RSS feeds and stuff. Now, a good sitemap hygiene, if you look at it, if you ask me, it should have most of these components. First, it should have the main pages. And usually when it comes to sitemaps, there is a limitation of 50,000 URLs per sitemap. And you can create a directory of sitemaps and then trying to add more sitemap into it. So what I would usually suggest is don't try to, load the sitemap file to the brim. That is, don't add all the 40K URLs on the sitemap file. Try to split it up based on the categories and try to add more categories and have it. So by doing this, it gives an opportunity to the bot to actually look at what are the main categories that you're aiming for. And if a particular sitemap has only 100 pages or 200 pages, in an instant, the bot will just crawl it and finish it off rather than going across a 40,000 URL. And more importantly, in the sitemap previously, the priority would have been taken into account. But these days, Google is not considering that priorities anymore when it comes to the sitemap. So instead of throwing away all the 40K or 50K URLs on a sitemap, split it and have it like a structure so that it's quite helpful for the bot. And also the another thing which we've seen, this is like the common mistake which you can always find on the sitemap files, is that the redirected pages, the temporary pages would have been added there. The URL parameters, especially like I mentioned before, the product pages where it has more the product attributes, all those URLs will also be added in the sitemap accidentally. So we can remove all those unwanted pages in the sitemap. And also the canonicalized pages, that is also a waste of time, because already you are saying Google that this page is not the right page, the canonical version is that one. Then again, when you're showing this page on a sitemap, it's completely confusing the bot and also wasting its budget. So these kind of audits should be done regularly. These are something which you can easily do it via Screaming Frog, and then check whether and do a comparison on the Excel and see whether these canonicalized pages are there in the sitemap. If it is there, then remove it. And also the duplicate pages, the pages disallowed on robots file, and the pages with no index. These are quite common things. So if you are an SEO, ensure that this sitemap hygiene is followed. Yoast does it to an extent very well automatically, but we have seen instances where these canonicalized pages, if they are not marked properly, then they will find their way into the sitemap file. So ensure that this hygiene is being followed. And I'm pretty sure once you follow these things, you can see a good jump in the way the bot is crawling your site. So, and also one other thing, this happens in the rare case, it not happens every time. One thing that we have also noticed is that people have the habit of adding a lot of cache plugins on the site, on your WordPress site, and I'm sure you would be using any one of these three on your WordPress sites. When you're doing that, ensure that the sitemap file is always excluded from the cache, because this creates unwanted confusion, and also the new pages, it takes a while for the file to load. This is most of the, I think the latest WordPress release and the latest plugin, most of these plugins have resolved that. But in case if you see that your sitemap file is being caged, ensure that adding this will not hurt. Just add it to the cache settings, not to add those sitemap files into the cache. So this is one thing which I've also seen. And yes, and with regards to the bulk indexing issues, now this is the biggest enemy when it comes to SEOs. Now for a site that is having a lot of pages, you spend a lot of time planning it, optimizing it, launching it, but when the bot is not crawling all your pages, it just hurts your efforts. So what in my experiments, what I have seen is when I'm launching a big site, like I told you before, I did try to launch a site with with the script created content, with all the addresses and all the things. That site, it just, the crawl rate never went above 100. So even though it was a 500K page, but when it comes to launching a site which is having like a big site, so what I would suggest is, don't launch all the pages in one shot. First, warm up. This is something which people do in email marketing. They warm up the IP, and then they increase the email campaigns. They don't shoot 1 million emails, bulk emails in one go, because the moment you do that, you'll anyways, your mail will go into spam. So what the email marketers usually do is they'll warm up an IP slowly, and then they'll increase this thing. So that is something which I try to apply it in these kind of websites where it have a lot of pages. So if it's a brand new website, let's take you're having a website which is having 2000 pages, and this is a new domain, new website. You're first of all launching it live, and you're making it allowing bot to crawl. So don't load all the 2000 pages in one shot. First load your main 200 pages, which is your best pages. And once the bot crawls this page, it warms up into the website. It feels that it's a small site, it just crawled everything. So it will try to increase the amount of the pages, because if you're releasing only 200 pages, in an instant it will crawl, index, and keep all the pages ready. Now the next day, if you're releasing the next 500 pages, now those 500 pages will also be quickly crawled, because the bot knows that you're not like spamming them, you're just introducing the quality pages into the system. Likewise, if you do it like a stage-wise launch, this will help you keep a healthy crawl budget. Now, this healthy crawl budget will go a long way for you. If you are an established website, like the big websites, like Search Engine Journal or like the BuzzFeed and all these guys, you can always the bot keeps them into a different league altogether because they know these guys are there for a while and the way the crawl budget is allocated for those websites will be high. But if you are a new website, when you are suddenly trying to increase or trying to post a lot of pages, don't directly go and launch a site with thousands and 100K pages in one go. Do it like a stage-wise approach and start doing it in batches. Once you do it this way, I'm sure your crawl budget will not take a hit, and slowly you'll be able to maintain that crawl budget and pages are being crawled on Google. So, and this is something which I was talking before, where you can split the pages into multiple sitemap folders, and then you can allow the Google bot to crawl it, and that way it will be easier for all your pages to be indexed. So, if you guys have anything so far, I could see that there are few questions again. Is there any technical SEO points for social media pages, blog, or groups? Okay, so some of these, when we take a blog, for example, most of these that I'm discussing right now will apply for you as well. But when it comes to social media pages, I am not sure these things will be there covered in this session. But feel free to get in touch with me. Maybe we can have a chat around this. And then still the next question I have by Mr. Prasad is still external link building being vital role apart from traffic. Yes, external link building definitely it still plays a vital role. There is no denying it. In fact, if you guys notice the first, I think the fourth or fifth slide where I was talking about how the SEO fundamentals work, definitely link building is part of the system. It's not going to go away anytime soon. Just that I'm just warning the SEOs that don't just rely on that 100% because that is not the only thing which Google expects you to do. So ensure that the technically SEO optimization is done. And then once you're done with these things, then you can definitely focus on building the external links because that is something I don't think that will go away for the next few years. Cool. So we are almost there in the midpoint, I think. Yeah. So I think the 1 hour session, almost 50 minutes has been crossed. So you guys have 30 more minutes or so what do you guys suggest? Can we continue? I think I'll need about 15 to 20 more minutes to go.
Okay, so Sandil, I think if it's going to take another 15-20 minutes, I think we should be able to continue. Anyway, this session is getting recorded. So in case people have to leave by 6, because we said the session will be just 1 hour, then they can actually check the recording. So we will be uploading the recorded video in YouTube at a later point in time anyways.
Sure, Siddharth. Okay, great. So yes, now coming back to the original thing that we are discussing, the crawling, indexing. Now, so far I've shared you a few tips and a few mistakes that people do. Now, all these things, if you're rectifying it, definitely will help to improve the crawl budget, improve the crawling of the bot on your site, and also helps you with the indexing of the pages on the by the bot. Now, coming to the ranking. Now, ranking is something which we can't say that if you do all these steps, you're going to rank. But we have seen some factors which have contributed well to help boost the rankings. Now, I'll just share you a few things in the next 15 minutes. Now, the first thing is paying more attention to the taxonomy SEO. Now, one thing that I've seen when it comes to WordPress sites, not just WordPress, even Drupal, everywhere, where the nodes and all the other, the category pages, the tag pages of your blog gets automatically indexed on the Google. Now, when it comes to the tags and the category pages, usually the SEOs advise that we are just wasting the budget. It should be no index or all those things. Now, there is one thing which you should notice is that if you notice the tag pages, they rank well actually. They rank faster compared to any other page because Google loves to have a variety of content about a particular topic. Now, if that tag pages or the category pages, you don't have to waste your time or try to no index it. Rather than that, try to play the game and ensure that how best you can utilize those category pages or those pages, because people pay more attention to building a kick-ass homepage, the services page, the product page, everything will be really good. But when it comes to category pages, if you notice, it will be just a list. The tag pages will be even more horrible. They leave it to the core of what WordPress gives. Now when it comes to a taxonomy SEO, you can always try to focus on these tag pages, how these tag pages are shown, and also how the category pages are shown, because these pages will always have a high chance of ranking better. And also, you may have to watch out for the duplicate tags and categories. Now, for example, if the tag name is SEO services, or maybe the tag name is social media, and you're having a category also as social media, now those two tags are also going to be having a list pages. Now that will also confuse not only your own website search engine, but also the Google search engine. So ensure that the hygiene is being followed when it comes to ensuring there is no duplicacy between the tags and the categories, because this is one thing where people pay less attention. They just keep on adding as many categories as possible that they could think of. In fact, I've seen on website where that SEO, he picked up all the keywords, high volume keywords, and he created all the categories for it, and he started loading it up. Now, I wouldn't say it's a bad thing to do, but try to avoid creating hundreds of categories. Try to have the main categories and the tags, and don't overdo it. And focus more on optimizing those pages. And the second thing is obviously the site architecture itself. Now, if you could have seen a lot of e-commerce sites where from the homepage they have hundreds of categories being shown and they just link to it. Now, the way the page rank, the link juice flow is that the more lesser that you are linking out, or the more less number of links you are having from the page, it is always better to reserve the page rank within that website, and also the link juice quality will be higher. So if you are going to share a link from the homepage to hundreds of categories, compared to only few categories, now the amount of power that these few categories gets will always be higher compared to hundreds of other pages. So I'm not saying this only you have to limit to 3 categories, but I'm just giving it as an example. Wherever possible, try to limit the number of categories and try to accommodate more subcategories, so that the architecture is proper and the bot is able to crawl it in a much more efficient way, rather than loading all the files in the root. There are few SEO experts whom you would have seen that they suggest to keep your main pages as close to the root as possible. Now, the problem is, if it is like only few pages, it's fine. But if you are going to place thousands of pages on the root folder itself, considering that every page is important, then that is going to be, that might not be an ideal setup. So always try to categorize it and keep the content flow clean, so that the bot will also crawl in a more efficient way on your website. And then these are the common settings when it comes to Yoast. Since most of you has asked about Yoast, I think this would be more helpful. When you're redirecting the attachments, especially when it comes to a blog, WordPress blog, we have seen a lot of people, they don't, redirect the image, because when you upload and when you attach an image to a post, it is definitely going to sit in a separate URL. When you click on that image, it's going to load separately in the URL. So ensure that that is being avoided and try to redirect it to the parent page itself. Now, these are some recommended settings: removing the stop words in the slugs, and don't redirect the ugly URLs to permalinks, because that might trigger a unlimited loop when it comes to redirecting ugly URLs. So ensure that these settings are the recommended ones which you guys can use. And the fourth thing, obviously everybody will say page speed and this thing, but the thing is, beyond page speed, now the way, like I mentioned before, now Google is focusing more on the experience. Now people think having a fast site, checking on GTmetrix and thinking that it loads in 2 seconds, that means I'm going to rank better. Now that's not something which what Google wants. What they want is a good experience which doesn't let the user wait for a long time. For example, if you notice, this is something which this screenshot I've picked it from Caliber app. So they have done a fantastic blog post around this. I'll be sharing you the link to the blog post. You can read it through. So the thing is that if you are optimizing only for the fast loading time, what usually they do is if you look at the first content paint, what is happening is it happens in the 0.8 or 0.9 seconds towards the end. But a good way to optimize a page is that there are elements which start appearing right away so that the user doesn't feel like he's being shown a blank screen, even if it's a microsecond. Still, having the meaningful content show up front and then having the load this way planned will always be better. So that gives an user that this page, it always gives a feel that the page loaded fast compared to a page showing a complete blank screen, and then in 1 second it shows the whole page. Compared to that, if you're seeing a page which is loading all the elements in a faster way, it gives you a feel that this page is faster compared to that. So this is something which you guys can check it out. And yes, the core web vitals. This is what I wanted to discuss or focus more on the session, where right now the more priority is being given to how the page is being loaded, how the interactivity happens, and how the visual stability is there. Now, these three are going to become an important factor. Now, if you guys master this one, then you have an edge compared to others, because it is, like I mentioned, this has been announced officially by Google as a ranking factor. And whatever you see on Search Console, if you're seeing, whenever you log into Search Console, you can see the performance, you can see the links and all the things. So these are critical factors that Google takes into consideration. So the core web vitals are also being seen on Search Console now. So definitely Google is going to pay more attention towards it. So there are few things which you can definitely see. So this is something for my own website where the LCP value has been less than it has been more than 2.5 seconds, and the CLS has been around 0.1. Now this LCP, that is nothing but the large content paint. So that large content, if it's going to take more time, then obviously that is what Google feels that it's a bad user experience. Now, how you can fix these issues is that it's like a methodology that you can follow, where you can first go to Search Console and pick up all these URLs where Google has thrown these errors, and then look at what is the individual page element, what are the that you can easily find it from the page speed insights or the lighthouse, which they call it. You can identify what elements are causing this long load time, and then once you identify it, just crush it. Now, for example, most of the pages we have seen, they'll have a .jpg. They still use the old image compression. So you can use to the latest formats like JPEG 2000, JPEG XR, and all these things. WebP is probably the best. I always suggest that. And then you can also try using CSS sprites. That way, all the images are being added as one image, so that it just loads in one shot rather than adding individual requests to the server. And moving to a better server, this is like something which is a common advice everybody say, but it definitely helps. So moving to a better server or using a CDN, these things definitely helps to boost the LCP. And also you can use lazy load. Now lazy load is something which you can use it as a last option, because usually if you're lazy loading things, then it also might try to affect your CLS score. So that is something which I'll cover in the next slide. Now, after you're trying to fix all these things, don't forget to go and add it in the Search Console that these things have been fixed. So usually what the developers do is they do all the hard work, they see the score showing as 2.1, they've passed it, and then they forget to update it in the Search Console. Now there is a way on Search Console, you can submit these URLs and let Google recrawl that page and ensure that the error has been gone. And this is something which we have done for the Stan Ventures website, where the second level. So the first level is something which anybody can do this. It doesn't need a lot of technical expertise. But when it comes to the level 2, even after doing all those things, if you still feel that you're not able to get the right LCP score, then obviously you have to get deep into it and figure out what are the elements that's causing this slowness on the site. So if you notice here, we have fixed most of the issues. That's why in this graph, you're not able to see. But in many instances, you can see a lot of graphs here showing that the time taken for those individual elements, especially when you're using a live chat or you're using a pop-up or these kind of things, they usually try to absorb a lot of time. So you can try to check which type of JavaScripts are trying to trying to load in a longer way. So you can accordingly plan whether you really need those things, or you can cut short on some of these items. So this is probably the simplest fix that you can do that could help you resolve the first content load. The second would be on the CLS part. Now the CLS part, this is something where when you're building a page, especially when you're using page builders to build your page, usually they just give a ad slot name, and whenever an ad slot you're not defining that particular section, then if the ad is not loading, or usually what happens is you will be using a third party ad provider like the Google ads, the Google AdSense, or those kind of things. Now that will take some time to load that ad on your page. The moment it loads, there will be a shift in the content, and that actually creates a bad experience for people. So this is what is Google is trying to say when it comes to the CLS issues. Now what you have to do is reserve an ad slot, and whether an ad comes there or not, just don't try to embed it. This happens for people who are trying to use inline CTAs. They'll be adding inline ads within the blog copy, blog content. So at that time these kind of issues happen. So ensure that you're fixing an ad slot, and then you're adding your content, so that even if an ad doesn't pop up there, still the readers, the CLS issue will not be there. So this is, you can use Ad Inserter plugin for WordPress. It's a great plugin. I highly recommend that. And yeah, this is the thing which I was talking about. You can also manage, especially the images. Sometimes you would have uploaded a high resolution image, and depending on the browser, on the mobile phone or something, it will just try to adjust it with the responsiveness. So these kind of things also create a set of a CLS issue. So ensure that you are fixing it through CSS aspect ratios, so that the image will always be having a defined aspect ratio based on the screen size, so that you're not trying to load an image which loads in a bigger way and then tries to adjust into the screen. So these kind of issues will affect the way, it'll affect the user experience. So these are few things which you can, few fixes. And of course, these are not the only fixes. There are a lot of things to do. And this is just a basic thing which I'm trying to cover in this session. And with regards to the FID, I think one this thing comes to the first input display is that the code splitting. So if you have multiple JavaScript codes triggering, it will, what happens is the browser tries to load the complete the JavaScript code, and then when the user clicks on a button, the browser will wait for those that particular work to be done, and then moves on to the user action. So it will create a delay on the user action. So ensure that you split the codes, and ensure that only the main codes are being triggered first, and then you wait for the user, wait for the page to set, wait for the user to settle in, and then you fire some other codes. So I think Google Tag Manager will be very handy when it comes to for SEOs. You can set up firing rules so that you can always delay some of the third-party JavaScripts, so that at least a page loads, it doesn't create any bad user experience, and then in the background you start loading the other JavaScripts like the GA code or the live chat. So there are a lot of things you can do with the Tag Manager. I would highly suggest you guys to try, try play with the Google Tag Manager and see what other things that you can put forward, so that the FID score also increases. So these are some of the resources that you can check out. There are like detailed resources, and this is quite a new topic. Even though it has been there for a long time, still there is no defined set of guidelines to improve the scores. There are a few things which you can try, and these people have done a fantastic job in giving the right information on how to optimize it, fix it. So I'll be giving you the links so you guys can check that out. So yes, so that summarizes the entire thing that I wanted to share with you guys today. So you can add your questions here. I'll try my best to answer it. Okay, so let me scroll this up. Okay. So the last question that I answered was.
So the last question you answered was from Prashant, right?
Prashant,
about the
yes.
external links.
Yes.
So I think the next question is from Marshall about YMYL.
YMYL, yes. 1 second. Yes. I'm not able to locate that question. From Marshall, any queries in YMYL, right?
Yeah, that is the
Right.
first question
Okay.
that we have to
Yes.
answer.
So since we are fully focusing here on the tech SEO part, when it comes to YMYL, usually the when we add the authors, I mean that is more critical. For example, if it's let's take for example if it's a attorney or lawyer site back in the US, you can't optimize lawyer site saying it as best lawyer, best diverse lawyer, like that. You can't use that. You have to play by a lot of rules. So I would usually add in these YMYL stuff into an on-page optimization factor itself, rather than looking at it, taking it from a tech standpoint. Now the goal for this session will be just looking at a technical standpoint. From a YMYL standpoint, it all depends on how much experience you have on that particular subject, and then using the right approaches. Not using for example, if you are a health website, don't recommend the drug names, or don't recommend the cures for a particular illness, because these things will naturally add into this thing. This is something which we consider under EAT. When it comes to YMYL, like Your Money Your Life, when it comes to the finance related sides, or cryptocurrency and all these things. Now here definitely the way Google is going to treat the page is going to be different. So ensure that you are adding as many authority signals as possible on the page. So what I mean by authority signal is like some of you guys have asked, adding the social thing, showing that you are a real person adding this content on the page, and that has a good cloud score. Now usually the websites, what they do is they'll try to add it as added by editor or added by some common name. They don't want to showcase their faces on the author tags. Now that is something which should be avoided. If you are in a YMYL category, definitely the way your social profiles are being built, please include those things on all your content, so that when the bot comes and crawls your web page, and then when it sees that, if it sees that okay, Sandil Kumar is there, and if that page is going to be all about some other technology which is not related to anything related to SEO, then it might not give a good impact. However, if I'm going to be talking about an SEO in a detailed way on a particular blog, and the bot knows that I've already shared a lot of information related to SEO in some other websites, so obviously that page will have more priority. So that's the reason why you might have noticed the lot of gurus, their website always they can easily rank at the top, even if they don't follow all these factors, of course, except no index tag. If they don't follow the rules or the SEO rules, still they'll be ranking at the top. It's because the brand that they have built, and that is quite important when it comes to, if you are a YMYL site, please ensure that your CEO or your founder or the main people in your organization, they are active in social. You're actively building, and even if you are building links, ensure that the authors are these people and not some other author, because people used to have a habit of buying links, paying some money, and then that person will add that entire content in somebody's duplicate name. So you can avoid all those things. Ensure that if you are building links for these pages, the authors of those content that you're building link or placing the link on another website, ensure that the author or at least the mentioning of these people are there in that particular content. And if it is a press release or if it's a press article, obviously the journalist, it will be going in their name. So in that kind of situation, ensure that the brand mention, and ensure that this founder or this important key people in your company, their names are there, so that always that relativity is being there. So the next thing is, I hope I have answered Siva's question as well, because that is also related to YMYL. So Mohsin, should tag be clickable or static will be fine? So this is related to, I'm not getting it. Maybe you can explain this question a bit
So
more.
I think what they are referring to is like, especially in a WordPress post, right? So we can display the different tags at the end of the post or on top, right?
Oh,
So
okay.
he's asking whether that should be linkable to a page which lists all the posts from by the tag, or should it just be like a static text which is not linked anywhere?
Yeah, you can always have it as a clickable one. Don't make it as a static one, because the main reason for a tag page is the reason why Google is giving more prominence to these pages is because they feel the tag pages are the number one pages in your site, where for that topic entirely, they are going to save some time by getting into a tag page. So don't make it as a static one. Keep it dynamic and clickable. Now, the next thing is from Edward. What are your thoughts on pagination on blog post, archive pages, and shop product pages? Yes, that is something which I haven't included here. The rel, prev, next. So that canonical tags, definitely they also play a big role. Now, I think probably in the year 2011-12, these were considered like really big things. But now I personally feel that even if you're not adding it, still the bot is able to crawl it, and that's the reason why you're introducing all. If you're maintaining these category level pages in your sitemap, now you don't have to worry about the paginated pages, because you are anyways going to have a folded approach, and for that category, the sitemap itself is going to link to the product. So definitely that will be easier. So you don't I'm not that much highly this thing about adding these prev next tags, because I've seen even if without adding it, bot is able to crawl it, so I don't see the need. But if you feel that there are certain products which are not able to be crawled well, first try the approach of the sitemap and then submitting manually on the search console. If all these things doesn't work, then you can always go ahead with that. So yeah, the next is from Prashad, related to the no follow sponsored and UGC, right? So this is not yet in a bigger way, even though Google announced all these things, but still I haven't seen many people following this. I think it will take a bit of time when people start following this advice, because if they are going to completely, every guy is going to add it as a no follow link, or if it's adding as a sponsored link, then to be very frank with you guys, majority of the companies or the premium websites, they earn a lot of money through sponsored posts and through the link placements for sure, compared to ads. So I don't think Google will be able to sort this out, because these transactions happen under the ground. So you can't, under the table. So you can't really crack it. But I think the one way that Google can really crack, if it is a sponsored post or you're trying to build a link, is by looking at the content. Now, if you are really trying to create a content which is like spammy, or which is related to promoting a particular brand, then probably they can take few cues from there and they can do it. But definitely, I think I have, this is my personal opinion. I'm not representing any company while doing these opinions. My personal opinion is that it's going to be really tough for Google to make people follow the sponsored tags and the no follow tags. But when it comes to UGC, definitely people will be jumping on it, because the blog comments is something which definitely the webmasters would love to allow Google to index all those content. So I think the UGC tag is something which definitely people will be adopting for sure. So okay, with regards to GTM completely, there is a very good YouTube channel. I think it's Measure School by Julian. That is a channel which I have learned GTM as well, the tag manager. So you can use. I highly recommend following Julian. He has some kick-ass videos out there, so you can follow him. And yeah, what are your thoughts from John? What are your thoughts on pagination? I think I've answered that already. Bharat, please share the recording. Yes. If you redirect another page URL content on existing URL which is already crawled, is this the impact on the SEO part? If you redirect another page URL, so I'm not getting it. If you redirect another page URL content on existing URL. Okay. I'm not able to get this point, Griba. So what I'll do is I'll try to answer this, or maybe
Sandil, I think possibly what they're trying to ask is if we are actually trying to redirect a particular page into an existing URL which is already crawled. So basically, like there are two pages now. One page is already crawled. Now they are trying to redirect a new page to that existing page. So basically, it's a redirect now, right? So 301 or 302 redirect. Now the question is like whether the SEO of the existing page, any SEO benefits that the existing page which have already been crawled, will that get affected because now new pages are getting redirected into it?
To that page. See, this is, I think, if I got this right, there is a habit of SEOs redirecting all the the temporary pages. When they are done with it, they'll be redirecting to the home page. The entire gamut of pages they'll be redirecting. I think you have to take it with your depending on the situation. So if there are like hundreds of pages like this, you are going to redirect to an existing URL, then what type of pages you are redirecting, that becomes very critical, because that shouldn't trigger a spam related activity. If you have 100 pages, 100 different categories, but let's take, for example, a baby diaper category, and then having a office business casual dress category. If you're redirecting these two to a common category called cloth, which is which is still fine, but if you're going to do this for 100 different category names, then it might think that you're trying to game the system. So I would suggest to try to avoid it. So that's the reason why I mentioned that while you're trying to optimize an e-commerce store, always focus on your category pages, because the product pages, once the product goes out of stock, always the pages will be temporarily down and all the other things will happen. And if the people land on the page, they see the product is out of stock, then they might just simply go back and increase your bounce rate. So in these cases, what you do is you focus more on the category pages so that you can avoid these kind of temporary pages which is getting knocked out, and then you're trying to redirect to the already crawled pages. Okay, so Vijayan has mentioned, is there any penalty for accessibility in SEO ranking, especially pages, color contrast score? Yeah, Vijayan, that's a brilliant question. Um, uh, this is like, I think you're trying to recreate the cloaking issue that usually people do during the old days, where you have a white background, you have a white text, and people will try to add hundreds of, tons of content on it. Still, it's prevalent. Still, Google is trying to address it. I think this factor still exists. If Google is able to find out an user intent, if they're able to rank millions of pages, trying to do all these things, looking at a text color or the text size and all these things, making a decision on it will not be a difficult task for them. In fact, even I think in one of the recent surveys, I think it was done by Neil Patel or someone, where they mentioned that even if you don't add a H1 tag, but still if you maintain the pixel rate for a particular text, still Google considers that. So Google has gone into a pixel level, so they no longer even need that you are adding a H1 tag or H2 tag, because Google can really see that based on the font size, they can literally see where you're headed and how you're structured the page. So I think with this page color contrast, it won't be a big deal for Google. I myself haven't done it yet because some of the site I haven't tested it yet, but definitely I feel this will be taken into consideration. There is a chance of penalty. Yes. Okay. Great. So I think we have answered all the questions. Guys, thank you so much for being part of this. I tried my best to answer it all. And having said this, I know the title of this meeting or this presentation was Advanced Technical SEO. I might not have fully covered everything when it comes to technical SEO, but what I've covered in this session was whatever common things that I find by doing the proposals or doing the audits for hundreds of sites every month. This is what the common things which I see again and again and again. And if you're a startup owner or if you're an entrepreneur who can't afford an SEO agency, please take down all these points. And if you can, all the things that I explained to you, even if you have a zero coding knowledge, still you can try to do all these things. That's the beauty of WordPress. There are always plugins for everything. But yeah, you can limit the number of plugins. But again, for some of the critical things which I mentioned here, you please feel free to use the plugins. And all the best. I really hope people have got some good your investment back from this session, the investment of your time back from the session. Great. So thank you guys. Thank you so much for being part of this. Have a great day. So anything else I have to share, Sudhir? Is there anything else?
Thanks, Sendil, for taking time and then explaining all this thing to us. You said investment of time, but I think it would have definitely been a far more return of investment on time, because you've explained a lot of different things. And as you said, especially for people who are not in a position to recruit a full-fledged SEO agency, I think just going through your presentation and implementing all the things that you said and looking at and correcting the mistakes that you mentioned itself, I think will definitely give a big boost from an SEO perspective. So yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you guys. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. We'll be in touch. I'm sharing more information there. So you can always connect with me. Feel free to ask me your questions that you have. I'm always happy to help people. I've been doing this for a long time. So feel free to reach out and see you then. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yep. Thanks, Sindel. Also, quick.
Thank you so much, Sindhu.
Yes,
Yeah.
please. Yeah.
Quick couple of announcements. Like we have recorded the session, so in a couple of days the session will be uploaded to YouTube, so people, you all will be able to watch it there. Next week we would have the timing for the session is like would be slightly different. So do watch out for the meetup.org announcement, because we are thinking of having a speaker from a different country, so like the timing on the session would be slightly different there. And as well, thanks again, Sindel, and see you all next week.
See you guys. Bye-bye.